Hallelujah, my wonderful friends. I wish you a very happy new year. It is my prayer that this year you will be greater and you will be better. It is my prayer that this year you will find better and greater ways of doing things. Things you used to do in a certain way. This year, may you find a better way of doing that very same thing. Hallelujah. I want to speak to some Christians. You have learned to do things in a certain way, but there are better ways of doing that same thing. Yes. And we want to start the year by learning a lesson from David. Yes. There is a chunk of things we can learn from David. And I want to start with this very important one. After someone had brought him news of the death of King Saul, what did David do? Let's go to 2 Samuel, the very first chapter. Now, you remember the backdrop story behind Saul and David. David had been anointed king. Saul had been rejected. In fact, it was something out of human control. God was in the center of it all. It was God's battle. Saul had misbehaved. He couldn't apologize. He went about. He had his own issues. He offended God, and God went ahead to anoint David. David did not ask to be anointed. God anointed him from nowhere. Hallelujah. And just because he had been anointed, he finds in Saul an enemy. Saul becomes David's arch enemy without any provocation. Well, there might be some form of provocation, because David had taken his place. David had fought Goliath. David was now, the most anointed on earth. So people were now preferring David to him. Even God now preferred David to him, Saul. So, yes, there is a provocation. So Saul decides to kill David. He runs after him. He attacks him from every corner. He goes after him. He tries to kill him. And David runs away into the deserts, trying to escape. There are times that the anointed one needs to escape. Hallelujah. Are you a Christian? You may be anointed. You may be the beloved Son of God. There is a time you need to escape. Even Jesus escaped. Even the Son of God, at a time, his parents had to take him out and run to Egypt. I have recently come to learn that as a Christian, there are times without any fault of yours, you can become an enemy of people you used to love, people you loved with all your heart. They will wish you dead. Hallelujah. I learned it recently. I never knew that people you care for, people you mother, they will wish you dead. In fact, it has happened to me practically. I have earned an honor. I have gone higher in the ranks as a Christian. And I'm learning new things every day. Hallelujah. So even though God had anointed David, even though David was going to be the next king of Israel, he had to escape for his life. He had to humble himself and flee from Saul. He didn't stand to argue with Saul. He didn't stand proud to prove a point to Saul. He had nothing to prove. At that point, what he had to do was to escape. What he had to do was to humble himself as a nobody and leave the scene quietly. So he was fleeing from Saul. When he hears Saul is coming this way, David goes the other way. When he goes and he hears Saul is coming, he was all over the place just trying to escape from Saul. That is where he even taught us a very important thing. Touch not the anointed of God. Anybody who God has anointed, no matter what he does, you do not go after him. Hallelujah. We learn it from David. Even though King Saul was after his life, King Saul was ready to kill him, David said, I will not lift my hand against the anointed of God. He may be after my life. He wants to kill me, but I will never kill him. It is a very important lesson that Christians need to learn. Are you a Christian? This is an important lesson for you. No matter what happens, anybody who has ever been anointed, never lift your hand, never lift your finger, never lift your mouth, never lift your voice against them. Is there any pastor in your life who has ever been a blessing to you? My sister, no matter the circumstances, never, ever be the one to chase them out of town. Hallelujah. We learned that from David. However, that is not even what I'm trying to teach this afternoon. Now, chapter 1, second Samuel chapter 1, verse 1. After the death of Saul, David returned. David returned from striking down the Amalekites and stayed in Ziklag 2 days. On the third day, a man arrived from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he came to David, he fell to the ground. And David asked him, "Where have you come from? What happened?" And the guy says, "I have escaped from the Israelite camp." David says, "What happened? Tell me." The men fled from the battle. Many of them fell and died, and Saul and his son Jonathan are dead. This is all the man did. He was with Saul and Jonathan, and they are dead. He didn't even kill them. He didn't kill them. He just saw that they are dead. So he runs to David. He's an army general. He's an army officer. He knew the dynamics. He knew that David was the newly anointed king. He was with Saul's army. And he knew Saul was after David's life. And now Saul and his son Jonathan are dead. He quickly does mental calculation and decides, let me join the new king. Let me join the new force. The era of Saul is past. Let me join David. Let me go to David. Perhaps I might find favor with David. So he does a mental calculation. He sits down to plot. Let's follow. So he says, Saul and his son are dead. Then David said to the young man who brought him the report, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" Let's look at his answer. Then David said to the young man, "How do you know?" Listen to the young man's reply. I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, the young man said, and there was Saul leaning on his spear, with the chariots and their drivers in hot pursuit. When he turned around and saw me, he called out to me and said, what can I do? He asked me, who are you? An Amalekite, I answered. Then he said to me, stand here by me and kill me. I'm in the throes of death, but I'm still alive. So I stood beside him and killed him, because I knew that after he had fallen, he could not survive. And I took the crown that was on his head and the band on his arm, and I've brought them to you, my Lord. What did I tell you? He knew that David was the newly anointed king. So he has brought the crown and the band to David. But listen to David. David said to the young man who brought him the reports, where are you from? I am the son of a foreigner, an Amalekite. David asked him, why were you not afraid to lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? Then David called one of his men and said, go, strike him down. So he struck him down and he died. For David has said to him, your blood will be on your own head. Your own mouth testified against you when you said, I killed the Lord's anointed. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. My Christian brothers, my Christian sisters, we have been Christians for a long time. And yet, there are basic Christian principles we are not learning. We have been Christians for a long time, but there are basic fundamental principles we are not learning. And this afternoon, I want us to learn it from David. David personally had the opportunity to kill David, to kill Saul, but he refrained from it. He said, I can never lift my finger against the Lord's anointed. Saul might have misbehaved against God. God might have rejected Saul, but it is not my place to kill the Lord. If God wants Saul dead, God himself can strike him down. I am not the one to go and kill Saul. Saul was anointed. David had no hand in his death by decision, by a conscious, active decision, even though it was obvious that God had rejected him. Now, David was minding his business, and this young Oversabe man, yes, he is Oversabe. Now, at the end of the story, David tells him, your own mouth testified against you.